Hi there, my name's Andy Hillier and today's guitar lesson is going to be on Moonlight from Red Dead Redemption 2. I've done a full playthrough, a cover version of it, so if you want to hear what it sounds like, check it out. I'll leave a link to that in the description. I'm going to teach you my whole arrangement, but just before I do, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to my channel, which is Andy Hillier. Give me a like on the video, the little thumbs up button, that really helps. And I love to hear from you, so please leave me a comment in the comment section, especially if you've got any ideas for songs from games that you'd like guitar lessons on. And if you love what I'm doing, you want to support me, support the channel, and you want the tabs for this, then I'll put them on my Patreon page. A link to that is in the description. My guitar is in standard tuning. Now the first line of the song sounds like this. Okay, so to play that, I'm barring my first finger on the 3rd fret. I'm going to put my second finger on G4, third finger on D5. And I'm going to play the E3, the D5, the G4, and then the B3. So my first finger's bar into that. I then add my little finger and play the G5. So far you've got. We then take the little finger off and play the G4. Hammer on the little finger onto G5. So you've got. And then play the B3 and then G4. So you have to take your little finger off again. So bar 1. I'd actually say probably this bar 1 is the hardest bit in the whole of my arrangement. So don't worry if you can't play this beginning bit. So you've got. And that repeats 3 times. So you've got. We then carry on into bar 2. We've got this bar chord of a G chord and play the E3, then D5, G4 and B3. Then if you've got your fingers around the other way, you'll have to switch your fingers to put your third finger on A5, little finger on D5, second finger on the fret 4 of the G string and first finger barred, because we're going to play the A5, D5, G4 and then B3. So bar 2 goes into bar 3 and it starts the same as bar 2. You play the E3, the D5, G4 and B3. We're then going to play an E3 and then we've got, which is kind of where this melody starts. So we play the E3 with the G string at the same time, then play E2, then B3. So bar 3. Okay, so the whole of the first line. On to the second line, and we've got this. So to play that, we're based around a C chord. First finger on B1, second finger on D2, third finger on A3. And you're going to play the A3, the B1 and the E string at the same time. I then play D2 and then the G. So it's. We then play A3, the D2, the G. Then I'm going to use my little finger and play B3. So bar 4 slowly. I keep my little finger on E3, put my third finger up to the E3 nearest to your face. And we play E3 with the G string and B3. I then play A2 and then D. So it's another E3. And then we play the G string and E3, E2, and then B3. So bar 5. Into bar 6, and it's the same as bar number 4. Bar 7 starts the same with E3 with the G and the B3, then A2, open D string, then E3. So we then play, which is E3 and D2. Then you switch your fingers to E2 and D4. So a little bit tricky there. So bar 7. Okay, so the whole line goes. On to the next line, and we've got this. Okay, one thing to point out, the notes in the brackets, we're going to play them the first time only. We're going to do a repeat, and you don't do the notes in the brackets on the repeat. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to start off in bar 8, and we've got, which is D2 with the G string and the E string. I then play A5 with D4 and then B3. So it goes. Into bar 9, I'm going to play E3 with the open G and B1. And then these notes in the brackets, playing the D string and the E string at the same time. And then D2 and E2. Into bar 10, and I'm going to play A3 with G and E3 nearest to the floor. And then play another A3 and then a D2. So it goes. Into bar 11, I've got E3 this time with G and E3 nearest to the floor. So both E3s and the G string. And then the notes of the brackets in the brackets at the end of the line go, which is E with D2, then E2 with D4. Okay, so the whole of that line goes. And then on to the next line. The first 3 bars of that line go. Okay, so we've got A3 with G and E3 in bar 12. And then E3 with G, B3 and E3 in bar 13. And then bar 14 you play E3, open D, open G, B3, E3, and then this is like the melody starting again. Where you play the G string with E3 at the same time, then E2, and then B3. So bar 12 and 13, go. 12, 13 and 14, sorry. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then that will repeat back to bar 4. So it goes all the way back to bar 4, which is the second line, plays the second line, plays the third line, and then plays bar 12, but then it jumps to bar 15 on the repeat. So bar 15 you go, which is E3, open D, open G, and then B3, then another E3 nearest to your face. So you go. We then have this, which is, you can put your fingers in a diagonal line, E2, B3, G4 and D5. And then you just play the D5 and the G4, then the G4 and the B3, and then the B3 and the E2. So, okay, so bar 15 goes. So hopefully that makes sense. So the whole of that sort of section then, remember, you can print this off from my Patreon page or download it from my Patreon page. Probably easier if you can see it all together. But basically you repeat back to the second line, play the second line, third line, and then this fourth line. On the repeat, you play bar 12 and then jump to bar 15. You'll see above from bars 13 and 14, you've got a little line and a 1 that tells us it's first time bar. And then above bar 15, you've got a little 2 and a dot and a line across that tells us it's second time bar. So hopefully you understand that. On to the next line, and we've got this. Okay, so to play that, we've got this B minor chord. First finger barred from the A string on the 2nd fret. Second finger on B3. Third finger D4, little finger G4. And we're going to play the A2 with the B3 and the E2 at the same time. Then D4, then G4. So it's then A2, D4, G4. Then we're going to move to E3. So we've got. We then play E3 with B3 and E3 nearest to your face. Then A2, then D. So then another E3 nearest to your face. And then it does that same move that we had on the previous line. With your first finger on E2, second finger B3, third finger G4, little finger D5. And you play the D5 and the G4, G4 and B3, and then B3 and E2. Okay, so bar number 17. Bar 18 goes back to that B minor chord, exactly the same as bar 16. And then bar 19, we play E3, B3, and the E3 nearest to your face. Then A2, then D. We then play the D with a G4 and B3, then E2 and B3. So bar 19. So the whole of that line goes. On to this next line, and we've got. So it's the C chord. I've got my first finger on A3, third finger flat across the D, G, and the B strings on the 5th fret. I then go to the G bar chord, first finger barred across all the strings on the 3rd fret. Second finger on G4, third finger A5, little finger D5. Then we go back to the C chord and play it twice. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. I then play this shape. It's a little bit tricky, this shape. Little finger on A5, third finger on D4, first finger on G2, second finger on B3. That's a D chord. We're then going to play D2 with the open G and open E. I then play this same shape that we had with the D chord before, but my first finger's barred to the E string. And we just play the D4, the G2, B3 and the E2. So bar 22. Into bar 23, and I'm going to play A5, D4, G2, and then I'll do that again. So the whole of that line goes. Okay, on to the next line. Watch out for bar 24. There's only 3 beats in this bar. The rest of the bars have 4 beats in, but this one random bar has 3 beats in it. So we've got this. So bar 24, we play D3 and E, D4 and E2, and then open G and E3. So only 3 beats in that bar. We're then going to play a normal C chord, B1 with G, D2 and A3. Then B1 and E twice. So that's. Then we've got in bar 26, which is E2 and B3. E3 then B5. So. then E3 and B3 with E3 nearest to your face. You then play A2, A3. So it's into bar 27, play the D string, G2, B3, then E2 and B3 twice. So that line. Okay, and then the last line that we need to learn, we've got okay, so it's E3, E5, then E3 with D2, D4, then G. So into bar 29, we play A3, D2, open G, then D2 with E3 twice. So, then the G string with E3, B1, and then E3 with the open B and E3 nearest to your face. A2, then A3. We then have a D chord, second finger E2, first finger G2, third finger B3, and then the D string as well. Then add your little finger onto E3, play the same chord, and then you have to switch around to E5, B3, and G2 with the open D string. So you've got holding that on into the next bar, then you just play E3, E2, and B3. Okay, so the whole of that line goes. I then just repeated back to bar 4 and played bar 4 all the way through to bar 13, and that's the whole of my arrangement. Well, it's quite a lot to get through there. Hopefully it's made sense. Don't forget you can get the tabs for this from my Patreon page. A link to that is in the description. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to my channel, which is Andy Hillier, give me a like on the video, press that notification bell. And I love to hear from you. I do read every single comment, so please leave me a comment in the comment section. I'd love to know where in the world you're watching this from, because I'm just making this video from my home in England, and you guys are all around the world, so I find it really interesting. Let me know what country you come from. Let me know what song I should do next, especially if you've got any ideas for songs from games. I'd love to know what you like. And if you love what I'm doing, you want to support me and support the channel, then you can support me on my Patreon page where all my tabs are for this and loads of other songs. So check that out, link is in the description. Well, thanks for watching this, I do really appreciate it. I've been Andy Hillier, and I'll see you next time.